All right, let's get it on here. God bless you. Welcome to Let's Cross Together podcast with yours truly, uh, the mental health pastor, Fernando Kittrell. I'm excited to be here once again. Missed a couple of weeks last week, or maybe once last week, coming on other social media platforms. I tell you, I had sciatica nerve pain, and I've never had that. And that thing is no joke. I tell you, it's no joke. If you ever had that, man, more power to you. Thank God for his mercy and grace, but it was excruciating pain, but I feel much better. Thank all of you who were praying for me. I actually went to the doctor twice, two different times to the ER to get a shot because the first one didn't work. And then I said, man, I need another one. Then the second one didn't work. And then I just started doing some exercises and some other things that they recommended. And I feel much better today. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, today on Let's Cross Together, where we are dismantling mental health barriers. So we're going to be talking about something today that I believe everyone can relate to. Everyone can either they're struggling with it or they know someone, but I believe it's a good topic to talk about, and that is topic of saying no without feeling guilty. Saying no without feeling guilty. As a pastor and as a counselor, I hear probably this a lot. Maybe one of the top 10 things that people come talk to me about or I meet with people over is this topic in itself. Uh, Learning to say no without feeling guilty. And every once in a while, I have to check myself. I have to watch myself. But sometimes we feel like we want to say yes to everybody, want everybody to be happy. We want everyone to get along. We want everything to be blissful and peaceful. But in the reality and the scope of things, that's not always the case. And then if we don't recognize that, it becomes hard or challenging to say no without experiencing feelings of guilt and like you let someone down. So we're going to dismantle that today. We're going to take some time to dismantle that on the podcast today for those of you that may be struggling with it. The word of the Bible says that the fear of man is a snare. And sometimes because we're fearful of what people may think or how they may treat us, the tendency is to try to please them or to say yes to things that we really should say no. I don't know about you, but I've said yes to things. And at the moment I said no, I said yes, but I was thinking no. And so I've been there. I understand it. And but it can create turmoil in your mind because now you become angry, you become frustrated. Sometimes bitterness can come in because what happens is we begin to blame the person for asking us, and that person didn't do anything. That all that person did was ask. And if we're not careful, because we didn't say no when we should have said no, we make the person who asked us the issue. So I just had some peanuts. So now we're angry at somebody for doing something normal by saying, hey, can you do this or can you do that? And so let's talk about that today. Serving in ministry. I remember being in ministry and the pastors, when I was a younger man, asking me to do certain things or they ask you, can you do it? Or do you feel like you want to do it? And because we didn't want to say no, because we felt like we would be looked upon in a negative light or you wouldn't get another chance to do it. We said yes. We said yes. And sometimes it worked out in our favor, meaning, wow, I did it. Or sometimes it doesn't work out where we may have failed at something we said yes to when we should have said no. Now it becomes a negative experience associated with yes. So now we live a life on the other end of not doing anything because our yes didn't work. So now I'm living in the land of no to everything. So now there's an imbalance. So we want to see what healthy balance that we can bring to this saying no without feeling guilty. So I got three things here I want to share as relates to saying no without feeling guilty. And I hope this helps someone. Let me get this here. As I mentioned before, I've been in this situation People talk to me about this kind of stuff all the time, and it's just, I believe it's just something that we need to dismantle and expose so we can help people. I believe there are so many people doing the wrong things, and even in ministry, because every opportunity doesn't mean you're supposed to say yes to it. Sometimes I had to say no to things that look great, but um, but then when I started beginning to think about it and talked it over with my wife and begin to ponder it, like in the long scope of things, this wouldn't work out. And so sometimes every opportunity is not an opportunity of yes. You can say no to things. You can say no to things that are going to harm you. And if you have any insight, any discernment, we can discern uh, sometimes that if we say yes to this, where it's going to lead us. And so, all right, let's talk about it. Three things that I want to share with you on overcoming saying no without feelings of guilt. All right, number one, be wise, they might not be in the order. Uh, well, let me just do it like this. I got three things here, and I'm just going to do the order that I have them. And these are the things that I have to use on a continual basis. Um, and so, number one, all right, boom, 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 let's go. Be wise what you give your emotional space to. You know, some of us are burnt out because we said too many yeses. Some of us are in a place of emotional burnout, emotional fatigue, emotional frustration, emotional depletion, drained, just burnt out to the max. And because we didn't say no, we said yes to everything, and it began now to lead us. And over a period of time, your emotional state, your peace of mind is depleted. Most of the people that I meet with as a counselor have lost their peace, or they need their peace resurrected. And so many times, if we don't say no because we're afraid to feel guilty, we're going to run out of emotional space, because it takes a lot to keep doing things that you shouldn't be doing, because you got to keep putting your mind in places that maybe it's not your lane, it's not your gifting, it's not your calling, but because we said yes to something but we felt no, and now you're putting yourself in something you can't maintain or handle, because you were not built to handle that. Now you were built to handle this over here, but sometimes we try to handle what's over there. So we'll leave here to go there, and sometimes that gets us in trouble. And trust me, I've been there. I've said yes to things to the point where I was burnt out. I was burnt out, emotionally drained. And then you know what happens when you start getting burnt out and emotionally fatigued? You start getting edgy, you start getting frustrated, you start taking your anger out on people, you start becoming flustered, uh, you moody, you're up and down, you're mad. All that comes when your emotional space reaches its capacity to obtain or comprehend more information. You at that point, you're at burnout. Your creativity is gone. Um, who you are now, you become so angry that now we begin to isolate. We don't want to be around people, and so these are just some of the things that accompany uh, when we give our emotional space to more things than we can handle, because we don't want to say no, because we don't want to feel guilty. But let me tell you this: as a man of faith and as a faith-based counselor, um, guilt, God hasn't called you to walk in guilt. He hasn't called you to walk in shame. He hasn't called you to be manipulated or placed in a guilt situation to do something. There is the power of no. No is a powerful word. No is a word, and we'll get to that in a minute. No is a word of liberty. No is a word of strength. No protects you. The word no brings you out of alignment with something negative, and brings you back into alignment of what's positive and what's for your life. So God will have us to say no to things. Say no. Now, many times we say no to the things we should be doing, and then yes to the things we shouldn't be doing. So, but there is a healthy balance. There is a balance that we can have to know what we should say no and yes to. And so, number one, be wise what you give your emotional space to. If you saying yes to something causes you to be frustrated, burnt out, feeling manipulated, broke, uh, feel like someone made you feel guilty into something, you should not do that. You should say no to that. Those are signs that someone, even in church, if someone guilt you into paying an offering or giving more than what you have. Guilt is not of God. Guilt and shame and someone manipulating you. What that does is create these emotional blocks. It begins to build a house in your mind, and it begins to use all your emotional space. This is why we have to understand the power of no. The power of no. Begin to practice saying no. You don't always have to answer quickly. You don't always have to have an answer if someone asks you, hey, can you do this and do that? Let me tell you some funny stuff here. You may have done it before I really started coming to alignment to what I'm teaching. And maybe some of you have done it. It's funny. You ever said someone ever asked you to drive them somewhere? Like maybe they got to be to work at 3. Hey, can you drive me to work at 3? And the next thing you know, you're committing to them. Yeah, I can get you there by 3. And then another person that's close to you comes and asks you, hey, can you take me to the airport? My plane leaves at 3. And we're going to an airport, you got to at least be there an hour earlier or a half hour earlier or whatever. And so you're saying no, or excuse me, we're saying yes to 2 situations that we can't reasonably meet. Or if that person says, can you take me to work at 2:30, and the other person asks you, can you take me at 3? And immediately when we say yes to something that we should say no to, or have more time thinking it through, we usually the frustration comes right away, because when you say yes to the second person, you already made a commitment to this person, and now you self-inflicted yourself with frustration and anxiety because we were afraid to say no. So we said yes to 2 situations that how are we going to meet? So now we put ourselves in a position now to scramble and to be upset and to be uptight and how are we going to work it out? And now usually what happens, I mentioned earlier, one of those people going to have to be disappointed because you made 2 commitments and you only can keep one. And now what happens is that may hinder a friendship. Uh, they may, because they know they're going to say when you break the agreement, well, why didn't you tell me you had something to do? Why didn't you tell me? Because when people ask us things, you have an option. No is yes is not the only option. You can say no. You can say no in a healthy way. Doesn't mean you're mad, doesn't mean you're crude, but if you have plans, if you have something going on at the time that they ask you, why say yes to something that you cannot do? So we have to learn to say no without feeling guilty. So number one, be wise. Be wise what you give your emotional space to. All right, number 2, and I kind of touched on a little bit. No is a word of liberation or liberty. No is a word of freedom. No has power on it. No has the power to stop things, to stop things in its track. No has the ability to create healthy boundaries. No, the word no has the power of God attached to it, that we can say no to temptation. We can say no to things. Oftentimes we think yes is the only option. So we eliminate no altogether, thinking that we just have to do the thing or being driven into something or pulled into something that's unhealthy. You can say no. No is a word of liberation. It exists for a reason. It is a word in the English language that can help us set boundaries, that can help us uh, create safe places. So let's begin to think about the word no. 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 It sounds good, doesn't it? No. Somebody ask you something and you know you can't do it. They're asking you for 1 or 2 answers. we're treating it like many times we only have one answer, and that's yes, no. They asking for a yes or a no. And you can say no to things that are harmful to you. There are times in my life where I said yes to the wrong things because I didn't want to say no, and then it came back to bite me. Maybe many of you are in that situation. You said no, you said yes to something, but you should have said no. And so I just want to encourage you today, as we dismantle mental health barriers. We got to start dismantling this notion that we have to say yes to everything, yes to the things that really won't bring us any benefit. Now, hear me. We're not talking about saying no and not helping people. We're not talking about reasonable things. Don't hear me. We're not talking about being selfish and isolating yourself. We're talking about no to the unhealthy things. Sometimes we can't do certain things, reasonably so. If I got to be to work at 4, I can't take you to work at 3:45. So is no. It eliminates stress. It stops it in its track. We're not frustrated anymore, because most of the frustration comes from we're saying yes to things that we really wanted to say no. Now we're frustrated and living with that, and now it begins to eat away at us, and then we begin to complain and murmur when we could have eliminated all of that and just simply said no, I cannot. Doesn't mean you don't love anybody. Doesn't mean you're not friends. It just means they asked you and you said, I can't do it, or no. All right. So no is a word of liberty. No has power attached to it. No is a word. It is a word of love. I remember one time growing up, I wanted something from my father so badly. And I was worrying him. And then he finally said no. Man, I was like, what? You're whack, you're this. And I was thinking all this stuff and negative in my mind. And then he said to me, he didn't know I was thinking all of that, but I was. He said to me, I can't always say yes to things for you, but this time is no. And he said, and because the price was costly. It was something I was trying to do, make a decision to go to a certain place, a certain school rather. And he said, no, I just can't do it because this is going to cost too much. You're going to have to pay too much to get there. And I said, man, but when I calmed down, I realized he said no because he loved me. No is not a mean word. No is not an evil word, but no is a word of liberty. It's a word of liberation. It's a word of freedom. There's liberty attached to no. And when he said no, I dealt with it. And you know what? I'm so glad that he said no, because it would have done what he felt it would do. It would just bring me out into something. And I don't want to go into detail, but it saved my life, or it saved me from some heartache. I would have gotten in trouble more by him saying yes. So sometimes we think no is mean, no is crude, no is you don't love. No, it doesn't mean none of that. It means safety. It means setting boundaries. It means I have to look out for myself at times. It means I may have to look out. I may have to say no because it's going to help you when I say no. So no is a word that has blessings attached to it. It's not an evil word. And God has placed no in the word of God, placed no in the Bible to help us. Look at some of the people who, if they would have said no, things would have went differently in their lives. So, all right, this point number 3 is you can't please everyone. That's just the bottom line. You can't please everyone. You just can't. As much as we like to see everybody smiles and happy and jolly and fun and blah, 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 it just won't happen. So we have to come to that point that we can't please everyone. We can't please everyone. We can't lose ourselves saving someone else or ensuring their health and wealth, and then we go down the drain. We have to begin to understand that no is a powerful word. No will protect you. Saying no to things that you should say no to will protect your mind, will protect your sanity, will increase your mental health, because you don't have things that you shouldn't have in your mind that you got to comprehend. Sometimes the toxic relationships that we're in, or toxic situations, sometimes We said yes to things because we thought it would be greater opportunities, and sometimes even a job. Sometimes we can say yes to a job opportunity. It sounds good because it makes more money, but yet you're going to lose your peace. You're going to work so much overtime that you're going to be burnt out because we thought saying yes was better. So sometimes no doesn't no some sometimes our yes has glitter attached to it, and makes us not be able to judge wisely. But I want to encourage you today that no is a powerful word. No is a word that you and I can use when it's the timing to use it. We can use it to bring health and wealth. We can use it to not get in certain situations and relationships. No is a mighty word. So I hope this helps you today. Saying no without feeling guilty. You can do it. I can do it. Let's cross together. I appreciate you tuning in. Share this podcast, and this is how we change lives together. God bless you.